head into the theater and the usher nods me in. They know me here. I descend down the staircase behind the movie screen that only select people know about. The door at the bottom opens and I walk in. The sound of movie spoilers fill the air. The barkeep has my drink ready and motions me to the back. The rest of the crew are here already. This is my type of place, and these are my type of people. Join me as we discuss the inner secrets of cinema. Have a seat in the spoiler room.
And welcome, my friends, for journeying down the stairway to the spoiler room. Pull up a chair with the rest of the crew. It is June, and June has kind of become superhero month every year in the spoiler room. Didn't quite plan it that way, but that's the way it seems to be going. And this month is no different, and we're kicking it off. I decided this month to look at some more 90s superhero films because it was an interesting time after Batman took off when people realized, hey, we could do comic book movies now and people will eat them up. Well, not exactly, but it was the first attempt of Hollywood to get to where we are now today in filmdom, in film viewing audiences. And tonight, I have a great crew assembled to talk about The Phantom from 1996. First off, he is back in the spoiler room. It is Mr. Cole Meredith. Hello, Cole.
Hello, sir. Let's slam evil.
Oh my! Oh, you had to. Oh, there we go. There it is already.
That's my boy.
Oh, yeah. Yep, you did that. That just happened. And next to Cole is the diva of the spoiler room. Dawn is here today. Hello, Dawn.
History is about to be made, and you're all a part of it. Not an equal part, but an important part, nonetheless.
Oh, wow. How you doing, Dawn?
Fantastic. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right. I'd like you to know that you are partially responsible for me picking this film. So
I love that.
You are you inspired me. So this one's for you, Dawn. And next to Dawn, he's back in the spoiler room in his house. It's Scotty D. Hello, Scott.
Hello, Mark. I'm here for those of you who came in late.
Oh my God, The Phantom. Yes, it is a comic book film. And does anyone want to give the summary? Scott, would you like to give the summary?
Sure.
Go for it.
God, where do we start here? Okay, so this film actually does open up like an old serial, and say that for those of you who came in late, and gives a basic idea of what the Phantom is. It's this kid who washed up on shore, saw his father killed, and was sought by a pirate, and then he became bestowed with powers by this tribe.
Really?
In the jungle.
Is that what happened?
Yeah,
okay.
Bestowed by. It's all in the prologue, you know.
No, but I didn't know he actually got powers. He got a ring.
Sorry, he got powers.
He has powers. That's a
okay, didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
It's a fancy ass ring, and so it's like Green Lantern, except it's got a skull on it, so it looks cooler. God, I just remembered I had a Phantom ring when this came out. Anyway, I wore it too. Anyway, so he gets bestowed by these powers by this native tribe that finds him as he washes up on shore, and he discovers that he's bent to, fight piracy and evil in all its forms throughout the ages, and he becomes known as the Phantom, the ghost who walks. And in the movie that we see, it takes place in the mid-1930s, just a couple years before America gets involved in World War II. And there's this powerful industrialist named Xander Drax, played by wonderful Snidely Whiplash Charm by Treat Williams. And he is he's trying to he's not only a big tycoon, he's also a mafia boss, and he's also trying to harness all these mystical powers so he can rule the world. And he gets the Phantom gets wind of this, basically, and goes from his jungle lair into New York and then out back again. And they're trying, basically, he just starts kicking ass like only a guy in skin tight purple outfit can do.
Sweet Lord, that suit.
Oh my God, that's the suit. If you ask me, the suit had more to do with this film never taking off than anything else in the world. So.
Some things can make and break a film. It's the small choices.
Yeah, and then they couldn't get around the suit. The Phantom is a legendary character, and the suit is iconic. They couldn't get around the suit somehow, and that's a goofy suit. I love pulp stuff, but it's a goofy suit.
Well, they left out the striped trunks.
They left out the striped trunk. I think they did the right thing, though, in this movie, is that they show the suit. If you notice, no one ever mentions the suit.
Yeah.
No one ever says, "What's the suit?" Everybody just nods along and just keeps on going like he's in a big purple suit. Like it's no thing, which I think, given the tone of the movie, is the exact thing to do. Nobody, even Treat Williams, who is camping it up, nobody actually takes the time to wink at the screen and say, "We know how silly this is." Everybody goes along with it, and that's what I like about it. I'm kind of going ahead of myself. I'm sorry.
That's good. No, great.
I wonder about that, because a lot of there were big chunks of the film that was cut because the test audience, nobody realized it was supposed to be a comedy. So when the test audience was laughing, people, the studio cut a bunch of the comedic parts trying to make it a more serious film. So I wonder if those references to the purple suit may have been in the... I wish I would have had access to a commentary. I would have loved to have seen that. But I wonder if some references to that suit and more hamming it up was in, stuff left on the editing room floor.
I hope not. I actually kind of like it that they do play it very straight-faced and just... No, this is, it's the 30s. This is a high adventure movie. The suit, we're just gonna just walk away.
Cole, what'd you feel about the suit? I mean, it's its own character in this film.
It is. I've got certain feelings about it, and which I'll bring up. I understand we're going to do...
No, you can bring it up now. Go for it.
Well, we're going to ask some Q&A later, right? And my question revolves around that. So I don't want to spoil it.
Sure.
I do. It's not necessarily the color. It's just the whole thing looks a little goofy in contrast to the rest of the film. But Dawn is certainly enlightening me here. I didn't realize that a bunch of stuff had been cut. So, if this was meant to be more of a comedy originally, God only knows the jokes that were snipped, But yes, I do have comments about the suit, but I'll save that for the Q&A a little later.
It's very out there, though, but it goes along with what we've kind of talked about in past superhero films, that there's some things that don't exactly translate well being directly from print to screen. And there's a reason why a lot of your superhero outfits nowadays aren't just the tights type thing. They've got a bit of armor. They've got bits to them. They've got textures to them. They've got plating and stuff, because I think it makes it a little bit more visually acceptable than a guy in a leotard.
Even if he's built and looks awesome.
Even though if he's built, Billy Zahn looks awesome physically. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he's a bunch of cheesecake in here, or beefcake, whichever one. Cheesecake.
Wow.
A hunka burning man, and he wears it well. And there is some things in the suit that I think are cool, like. You could see, I mean, they took time in the suit because you could see like a skull picture, like a shadow in it. I mean, there's actually imagery within the suit that shows up, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, I didn't mean to talk about the suit right now, but it's so prominent in this film every time.
Really
it's like the elephant in the room. It really is. The elephant in the room is that you just can't get around the suit. And there's been kind of a back and forth over the years. Can you just translate comic books and just show the actual suit from the comics or not? Punisher never really has had his outfit on the screen.
No.
I was really wondering when Captain America was coming out, like, okay, how are they going to get through the suit? And how they get through it is that they rarely have him wearing the actual head stuff, the mask and everything. They rarely have him doing that. In the comic books, his identity was still a mystery and everything because he wore this mask and everything with little wings on the side. And we had already seen how that did not translate well in. Well, I haven't seen the serial, but at least the Rev Brown and the Salinger versions of the Captain America character. But I mean, there's been a back and forth in what can you show, and then all of a sudden Marvel will turn around and say, no, we're going to show green-skinned people and Rocket Raccoon and all this other stuff because that's goofy and it's fun. And I'm like, okay, where's the line? Where's the line on this? Because people have had to play coy about the outfit. The Phantom is so he's never been he was big a long time ago, but by the time the movie came out, he wasn't like a Batman or anything anymore, even though he kind of was back in the day. But the suit is iconic. You can't get around it.
Right.
So what do you do? Do you make it darker, or do you do this or do that? If you look at the trailer for this, the shots are very quick and they show the Phantom a lot, but whenever they show him, they don't show him for more than a split second.
Yeah.
And which is kind of funny because he's all over the poster and everything. But where do you see this line? The suit never made much sense. Of course, in the middle of the jungle, a giant purple suit is going to stick out.
Just a little.
I mean, what's he supposed to do? I mean, I'm trying to think, okay, are there certain gorillas that have kind of purplish? No, not that kind of purplish skin. So, no, he's just going to stand out a million miles away he's got to be good at hiding because how do you hide in that suit? Yeah, this is this back and forth that has existed, and it can totally sink something. And I think that a lot of the reason people were never going to dig into this movie is that suit. Another is the advertising, which Cole made reference to before, and I'd like to mention later. But the
poster that says "Slam Evil."
The poster. Since we're gonna do it now, okay. There is actually, if you look at the teaser poster, aside from these really cheesy words that have been superimposed that say "the ghost who walks," look at that teaser poster, and it's kind of like a painting of the Phantom sitting on his throne, and it's beautiful.
It is.
It is a beautiful. Aside from those words, that is a beautiful thing, and I'm like, wow, that is a great poster. I can't wait for this movie, and it's too bad it's not going to make a dime. I was saying that I knew it wasn't going to make a dime when it came out. It's just like, okay, then that's coming out in the spring, and then it didn't come out in the spring. It says, no, we're going to move this to June. I'm like, really? Okay. And then we saw the teaser posters, Slam Evil, and I just said, okay, who at the studio greenlit that? They should be fired. They should never be, because I can't think of one. It was such a pathetic, transparent try to grab the kids of the day, and I can't think of one kid who wouldn't have seen that and laughed his ass off. We had it we never got the movie at the movie theater I worked at, which is kind of funny because we did get the poster and it was sitting in the mall, and we did get the Phantom rings, which I had, as I said, I had one. But we had the big thing, Slam Evil. And every time I passed, I was like, that's just, I mean, it just screamed, we don't get it. They just scream, we are trying to market to young people, and we don't know what young people want.
Yeah,
it would have been so much better if they didn't even try. If they would have just gone with what they went with, it would have. If they went with what the advertising campaign they had, because the trailer's not bad. If they, I just was watching the Blu-ray. I have it. I guess it's out of print. No one can have it. I like the movie too much. The posters, the trailer's not bad. The marketing, I mean, it was just never going to get around it. I thought, if they'd released it in spring, had kept the original advertising, it would have at least stood a chance of at least making back its budget.
Yeah, that's true.
But not like this. Nope. Not releasing it right after the beginning of summer with Slam Evil.
Yeah. Don, do you remember when you first saw The Phantom? What did you think of this when it first came out, considering we had Batman not a few years before that?
I didn't see it till after it was on video, but I've always liked the movie. I always thought it was a tremendous amount of fun. I mean, there's not a whole lot of deep here, but it's right up where I want to be. In that escapism, that light, there are heroes in the world. Plus, it also is filmed exactly the way I wanted it to be filmed. Stylistically, it is an old serial.
Yes.
Down to several places where you can see there would be cliffhanger breaks.
Yep.
I mean, you could easily just chop that movie into bits and show it as a weekly serial, and it would still work.
Oh, you could.
I always just really liked this movie.
You could definitely see it as a series easily, the way it was written.
Don, I'm really glad you said that. If you don't mind me spouting off again, I'm sorry, but before Superman, we really didn't have superheroes on the movie screen. We just didn't. You didn't have a big, huge movie with like superheroes, but then Superman came out, and then it was like more than 10 years later until you got Batman. And then they kind of started to play with it, and now, of course, they're all over the place. But there was a time when you did have superheroes on the screen, and it was during the 40s, where you had the cliffhanger serials, of which there was a Phantom serial that is like a classic serial. There was Captain Marvel, Captain America. There was a couple Batmans. Were they the same things that they got in the comic book? No, they had to play by 40s movie rules and stuff. So instead of actually fighting like the Joker, Batman would just fight like these random hoods with mustaches, But this was how they did it, and the fact that they positioned this movie as an hour and 40-minute version of a serial is so endearing to me. So I'm so glad you brought up those serials.
Yeah, you can see it set up. I mean, they kind of were thinking that they could, establish a franchise almost with the way they wrote these characters and everything. Especially, the relationship between our main hero and his girl. But yeah, it is shot like a serial. You're absolutely right. And the way the scenes are cut, I could definitely see it that way. What about you, Cole? You remember when you saw The Phantom?
Absolutely, man. I was working at Subway. I don't want to say I was homeless because I had money in my pocket, but I was without home. So, I was working at Subway and kind of crashing in various locations. So I would try to find things to do at night. And Subway did a huge promotion for this movie. They had the Slam Evil thing.
Yeah.
Like right on the back of their whatever it was menu board at the time, and I was a huge Billy Zane fan. Am I pronouncing that right? I hope so.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because of Dead Calm, which to me is one of the most terrifying performances I've ever seen. I still don't think people talk about Dead Calm enough. This isn't a Dead Calm show, but to anybody who's listening to this and wants to know why I'm a Billy Zane fan, please see Dead Calm. It's absolutely horrifying. It makes my bones cold. So I was like, Jesus, I'm going to go see this tonight. Why not? And I enjoyed it for him. At the time, I thought, wow, how did he get this role? This this is like, kind of like, I thought, when they cast Downey, even though he was right for Iron Man, I thought, well, Jesus, somebody's, thinking, and somebody's taking a risk and thinking outside the box here. And I liked it for that reason. Watching it again a few years later, realizing it was a Simon Windsor film and seeing the tinges of the Old West kind of shootout thing in there. I love Simon Windsor. I love Quigley Down Under, love Lonesome Dove. And, I'm one of the few people who likes the very weird old-fashioned male bonding of Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man. I love that stuff. He really has a sense for just how to update the Western for modern audiences better than anybody except for perhaps Carpenter. So watching it again a few years later, I rented it on VHS when I was working at a video station, and I thought it was just perfect. And watching it again tonight, I don't own it yet, but I think it's fairly perfect as a movie. I mean, it's not like it's not going to change anybody's life. But damn it, maybe it's just nostalgia talking. But check out this cast. I mean, Treat Williams, Kristy Swanson, James Remar. I mean,
Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Yes, yeah, of course. Thank you, sir. I mean, this is a phenomenal cast. They're all doing solid work. I don't think anybody's phoning it in. And, watching it again tonight, I was struck by how long they linger on the fight scenes without cutting away. I mean, I was reminded again, the scene where he's jumping from horse to horse and a lot of the fist fights. And these are all done in long takes, at least by, today's standards. I have one complaint, which I'll bring up not a complaint, but a suggestion, which I'll bring up when we get to our Q&A. But damn, I mean, even the score. Who did the score? I've got it pulled up here.
It was
David Newman. David Newman.
Yeah.
I mean, I really, really enjoy this film. This people don't talk about the renaissance of comic book movies that came about in the 90s. But there was a renaissance of comic book movies. Some could argue it came from Batman. Some could argue it came from other movies. But, the Spawn, Tank Girl, Judge Dredd, The Shadow, all of these came out like within 5 years of each other. And I think this is one of the best of any of them. I really do. I would put this just as a pure piece of fun movie making, and just a great popcorn flick. I think this succeeds. I really do. And again, Billy Zane, I gotta say, it's that might just be driving my whole engine here. But watching it again tonight, there were so many other elements that I liked. Especially, as I mentioned, not to beat a dead horse, but the action sequences. And they give Kristy Swanson a chance to kick some real ass here, too. I mean, she's not just on the sidelines. Whenever she can, she's flinging her fists, which was rare at that time. If I remember right, I might just be running my mouth. But I'm fond of this film.
You don't say.
I am.
No, I'm right there with you, buddy. So I completely agree. I'm right on board.
What have I gotten myself into tonight?
We are. Well, apparently, we got some of the world's.
I found the three people that really love this movie.
You found a sadly endangered species, which are people who just unapologetically love this movie.
Did somebody just say it was out of print? Is it?
Well, the Blu-ray.
The Blu-ray is like I found the Blu-ray in a movie stop, and I picked it up for like $6. I'm like, oh, right on, the Phantom, and for trade-in stuff. And then I brought it home, and then all of a sudden, hey, this Blu-ray's out of print. This thing's going for like $200 if you want to sell it. I'm like, No, I'm okay. I'm gonna keep it. It's kind of like my friend, kind of like how I have my Bloody Valentine thing. Like, I could, but I know I'm gonna be watching this, so no, it's mine. Sorry, guys.
Awesome.
So yeah, we've talked about Billy Zane in the purple suit. I thought he did well as a leading man, as a superhero guy. He was getting into this role. I'm glad someone earlier mentioned the Batman vibe, because this is pretty much Batman in the jungle. I apologize for cutting Scotty D off earlier, but I'm sorry, but it's only hinted at, and I don't need my hand held, but at the same time, I never got the feeling he had any type of power except being like Batman until the end when he faces off against Treat Williams in the 3-skull laser beam, and he's got his own skull on his ring.
Well, he does talk to dead people a lot. I mean, that's pretty cool.
He could be just insane.
I kind of liked that they actually never mentioned whether, like, is he really talking to his dead father, or is he just, living his entire life in an African cave somewhere? And
there was a bit of a Hamlet.
I also kind of got the, I get the feeling he was a bit like Dr. Dolittle. Okay, I get that. I picked up on that. But Dawn, I know you, all three of you love it, but Dawn, I got to ask you, they really don't exactly establish very well that he has powers. I mean, he jumps around in acrobatic, but the stuff he does, like I said, we just saw in Batman in '89. So for me, it didn't establish to me that he exactly had powers.
Correct. Correct. It's really subtle, and they do that on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than in your face.
It's really subtle, and they really make a point of driving it home as they're constantly emphasizing the fact, yes, spoiler him, that he's not actually immortal. He's not, even though they call him the ghost who walks, it's a title handed down from father to son, generation from generation. There are some subtle powers that he gets, but even he says he didn't realize exactly what the ring meant.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I'm glad I didn't miss. I'm not set by a miss. I mean, I don't mind subtlety at all, but for me, I was like, what's kind of the big, he's like, okay, Batman. And, then we revealed too that he went to college for a while, and that's how he knows Kristy Swanson's character, because they had a thing back in college, and then he had to go off to the jungle to carry the mantle of the Phantom. Yes, this is the spoiler room, folks. Which I'm going to say I was a bit disappointed. I was kind of hoping he would be an immortal guy. And when I found out they pulled a Dread Pirate Roberts, I'm like, well, that's film number 5 this film has borrowed from. Which I know the material is very old. Don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying, I'm like, okay, so we got Batman in here. We got, we got Princess Bride. We got a little bit of Indiana Jones with the Quill character robbing tombs, and including a bridge scene.
Yes.
We've got him having lots of, apparently, well, though it is in jungle, so I'm sure money can be stretched a lot farther, but he's got a cave just like Batman. He consults ancient texts and such, and he gets allies kind of like the Shadow. I mean, I'm like sitting here watching this going, man, are there the elements? Though, again, I guess it's the John Carter syndrome, because you watch the John Carter movie, which I know a lot of people hated. I enjoyed, but a lot of people's complaints were, well, we've seen all this before. That's because the stuff you've watched was based off of the original John Carter source material that this film is based off. So I guess I'm getting that here. Would you say, Scotty D, possibly the Phantom in that were influences on the, superheroes after that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, people look back to things like Batman and Superman, and they think that's where everything began, and it didn't. The Phantom, as a character, launched, I think, at least 3 years before Batman. So the Phantom didn't borrow from Batman. Batman borrowed from the Phantom, which is fine, because the Phantom borrowed from other things, and Batman also borrowed from a lot of other things. If people saw actually looked at Doc Savage, they'd be like, wow. Then you look back to you mentioned John Carter. I hate the movie, but I love the books. You look back to like the old pulp writers, like as I mentioned, Doc Savage, so House writer Kenneth Robson and or Edgar Rice Burroughs or anything like that. You're going to see the seeds of a lot of the heroes that we love today. And you're going to look at each of those works and you're going to see a lot of crossover as well. Like, oh, this guy has a Fortress of Solitude as well. That kind of stuff. But so all these great heroes, they didn't come off as a comic page because somebody had a eureka moment. They came off because of a lot of blending of great tropes. And some that were blended especially well wound up standing the test of time. And that's what's happened here. I am a huge fan of Pulp Fiction.
Sure.
Not the movie, but also I'm talking the actual Pulp Fiction of back in the day.
Novels.
Paperback novels and everything. And so all this stuff, I think, is part of a wonderful, wonderful legacy of heroism. And the Phantom has a ton of that. Comes from an Ivy League family, but rejected everything to live a solitary life seeking justice. It's a master detective. Any of this sounding familiar? It was Batman. If you watch it today, it feels like Batman meets Tarzan. It wasn't. It was Tarzan. Back when the Phantom, it was just, oh, it's a knockoff on Tarzan and some of the other things, But it's all of this stuff has. There's a great history, and I think that a lot of the audiences, and I'll probably get into this in the Q&A section. A lot of the audiences today, I think, are a bit cynical, and really worse, they don't know their history, and not to be too smug and
well, aren't you Mr.
about
Hoity-toity up above us because you know everything, Scott?
Oh my God! I'm
tweeting you right now. I'm tweeting you right now.
I don't know that much, but just do a couple Google searches. Buy a couple books off Amazon. You can probably know just as much as I do. But there's a great legacy, and I think that the cynicism of needing everything explained and everything needs to be realistic, coupled with this idea that that every single entity has to be their own solitary entity and they can't borrow from anything else. It's ridiculous. Art borrows from art all the time. So I think it's a really toxic mix to have that. And I kind of like that when they brought the Phantom to the screen, they didn't say, okay, we know this sounds a lot like this, so we're going to make this excuse, or we're going to explain it like this. No, they just said, no, this is just what it is. This movie is what it is, and that's why I enjoy it so much. It's like, they've gone halfway around the world, and then they're going around the other half. Yep. Yes, he's doing acrobats. Yep, he's doing all this stuff. Yes, it plays completely goofy and serious. We're never going to wink at the camera and tell you it plays goofy. This movie is what it is, just like they were in the original stories. I gotta tell you, when a movie came out, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the movie when it came out. Looking at it today, this is such a breath of fresh air.
Yes!
From watching all these things that are so goddamn serious. Every movie. I can't even watch any movie about people who dress up in frickin' body armor and spandex, and they want to be all grim and serious. I'm like, guys, you do know you are wearing striped underwear.
And I will hope you turn as purple as the Phantom suit.
You're writing your tweet right
Hold
now?
On, no, it's an Instagram. I just sent an unsolicited dickish post to you. There you go. No, just kidding.
My God, this dick pic is purple.
With the exact mask from Billy.
How Minnesotan.
Minnesotan. Well, we've talked a lot about our main character here, but let's talk about the surrounding character with the it people of the time in this film. Because yes, film, if you look at this cast, and Scotty D mentioned it, all right, Cole mentioned it as well. These were people. This was built up. You could tell the studio was really hoping to hit it big with a big comic book film. Now, unfortunately, it came out the same weekend as The Rock, so there is that. But you could tell they were putting their eggs in a basket with this cast. Now, we mentioned Kristy Swanson, who, it was just a year or two earlier, she had done the Buffy that Buffy fans hate, but I enjoy Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
I dig it too. I love it, man.
I love the series, but I love the movie first. So, you know.
So she was kind of the it person at the time. And then you had Catherine Zeta-Jones in here, who was being a name at the time as well. And
it was like just before she hit with Zorro.
Yeah, it was just before Zorro. But, you know, it's set in the 30s. But, Dawn, did you feel surprised a bit about how these female characters were handled, being female characters of the 30s?
Not really. I wasn't surprised that the two main female characters. Okay, let me collect my thoughts here.
Sure.
I wasn't really surprised. Women were very underestimated in the 30s and utilized way more than we're given credit for things from espionage, especially espionage. I just read an article, if I may be allowed a little tangent here.
Go ahead.
I just read an article about how during World War I, they used women knitting code into their knitted items to tell the Allies when the enemy's troop movements were, and it was all knitted in code, whether they would knit or purl a stitch. It was a really fascinating article, but apparently this happened all during World War I.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
Women were utilized for espionage a lot. So the fact that all the pilots were women, and Catherine Zeta-Jones as the femme fatale was very fitting. One of the things I loved about this movie was the only two characters that really developed were the two women.
Yeah.
The rest of the characters were completely stagnant, including the Phantom himself. Nobody else changed or developed or anything. They were all two-dimensional, except for Kristy Swanson and Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Sorry, didn't mean to step on you there.
Okay.
Just that, it was a girl power thing, which surprised me in this film. I totally forgot about that angle with these two characters. But you're right; they're the two that grow in this. And it was also interesting to see Kristy Swanson in this role as well, because of some of the prior roles she had been in, you know. So yeah, you're right completely on that. And I remember that article. Again, I apologize, Dawn, if I stepped on you at all.
It's okay.
I remember seeing that at the historical, here in Stevens Point, we have a historical village. It sounds funny, but it's true. There's some historical buildings, and there's a building where they featured World War I and World War II stuff, and they actually had a section that they had just put in place showing the historical facts of how involved women actually were in service behind enemy lines during World War I and World War II. And you don't hear that aspect of it usually, you know, and it blew my mind. There was a whole platoon. It was like doing the stuff like you were saying, Dawn, stuff like that, or just serving, and you didn't realize that. So here you have a group of women who are all biplane pilots led by Catherine Zeta-Jones' character, which surprised me in a good way, though. I dug that. I wanted to see more of them actually in dogfights and that.
Oh, I was going to say, didn't you see enough in the shower scene?
Well, yeah, there was the shower scene, yes, which, I didn't, it was part of the plot. So it was for a joke to show you how noble Billy Zan was, the Phantom was. So, but no, I wanted to see them actually in a dogfight. But, Kristy Swanson characters too was actually a very strong character. And it was fun to see her in a role like this and actually getting to fight as well. And they actually get some decent fighting scenes. Cole, what'd you think of the two female leads in the film?
Again, it's hard for me to add to what Dawn said. I think she said it perfectly and had far much more knowledge than I can offer. I can just say I love them both, and I think it's great that they didn't need to throw Catherine Zeta-Jones's character, up against a propeller or something at the end and some bloody victory. I thought that was really cool that, again, spoiler room, that she aids, the sort of victory. And that, again, as Dawn said, that there's some real growth there. It's not all just about revenge and death and it's just there's so much I love about this movie, but it's just not about the vengeance of everything. It's not just about the victory, and I think the female characters were handled wonderfully. One of the things I love most about this movie, actually, Kristy Swanson again is just great in this movie. It took me a few minutes to catch up with the fact that she was in it. When she shows up, because I'm a huge fan of hers. I was when my stepmother worked at Fox when Buffy premiered, so I saw that movie like a week before it was out. Everybody thought it was going to be a huge hit, which it kind of wasn't. But we got these little mini coffins with like stuff in them, and she was just great. I thought she was great. I've always thought she was great. I don't ever think she's gotten the role that she really maybe deserved, but this is close. I think she kicked some ass. I love it, when a girl can kick ass in superhero movies because it has been a long time coming. It sounds cliche to say with the success of Wonder Woman, but I need more of that in my life.
Well, and if you look at it in the mid-'90s, this was kind of a bit of an unusual thing because you still had the damsel in distress. I mean, you did have Catwoman, don't get me wrong, but for the most part in superhero films, a lot of your female characters were just starting to, it felt, write them differently. And here in Kristy Swanson, first off, she's got her hair cut short, which everybody's kind of, I think, we're used to her seeing with the fuller head of hair, the longer hair, but it's different color.
Yeah.
And yeah, her character is just completely more mature, I think, than some of the other more popular roles people associate with her. And so it took me a minute to realize, oh, holy shit, that's Kristy Swanson.
Yeah, if people think she can't act, compare her performance in this to Mannequin 2. Yeah. I mean, she's got some chops, man.
She does. Scotty D, I'm sure you enjoyed the lady characters here. Do you think they were written fairly well?
I think Dawn pointed out something wonderful, that showing that everybody else was kind of a straight line, and these are the only two characters that really grew through the movie. I'm looking at this now and thinking, wow, that's absolutely correct, is that they did grow. I like that they were, each woman had their own sense of agency, and that each one was three-dimensional, and it wasn't kind of taken, they didn't present it like it's an olive branch. Look what we're doing. Look how nice and progressive we're being. It's like, no, these just happen to be women who have a lot of know-how. They really know what they're doing. They can hold their own in a fight. They have a good head on their shoulders. No, they can absolutely, hold it together here. This is the type of I don't want to say this too much because I don't want to give it too much credit because I'm sure it could be better. But in a lot of ways, the women roles in this movie were the kind of roles we really wished that they were writing for women when they said they were writing good roles for women.
Well said.
You know what I mean?
Well
It's like,
said.
look
well
how
said.
great we're being, and when you look at it, they're just there to be sex appeal or something like that, and they don't really get off the launching pad at all, you know? And so I thought that the characters in this were great, and you had that wonderful thing where you have the good woman and then the bad woman, and you expect, okay, there's going to be like a big cat fight at the end. No, it's just like at the end, Catherine Zeta-Jones kicks one of the guys in the balls and says, "I think we need to stick together."
Yeah,
because then, and you kind of get a lot just in that one line about Catherine Zeta-Jones' character. She staffs her armies completely with women. These are probably women who have been pushed around, and there is just absolutely no patience for that. So I liked that a lot.
Well, yeah, and you could tell she was along for the ride because Treat Williams Drax, we haven't mentioned him much, but he's just an over-the-top
we're
villain.
Going to have to.
We have to talk about him in a minute, but Catherine Zeta-Jones, it was a surprising switch for her character because at first, pardon me for my comment here, but you look at Catherine Zeta-Jones at the way where she was at the time, and you think she's there for one purpose only, but they actually do give her character dimension rather than just being there as the henchwoman of the bad guy to look good on his arm. You know, she wakes up and realizes this guy's really in it for himself. And you know what? This isn't fun anymore. I'm going to stick with you. Girls got to stick together because these guys are all just fucking nuts.
Which is the way it actually works out in the world usually.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, but I mean, it was great to see her character because when you first introduce, you think, oh, she's just the henchwoman, you know, she's just the Baroness, so to speak, of the G.I. Joe movie. But she ends up having that depth, and so does, Palmer, Kristy Swanson's character. Though at the very end, they're trying to keep his identity secret, and he like whips off the mask, and Catherine Zeta-Jones's character she's
standing right there.
she's like, a block away. She could definitely look and see who this guy is.
It's like, oh my God, it's the guy who always turns out to be a psychopath on a boat in the movies.
See, and now that's the part I wasn't really clear on, because he made the comment that he's not allowed to share all of his secrets,
right? And
he had already taken Diana to the Skull Cave and shown her around and shown her, admitted that the Phantom was passed down from generation to generation, yada, yada, yada. And Sala, Catherine Zeta-Jones' character, wasn't there for that part. So sure, she may see who he is, but she doesn't know the rest of it.
Oh, that's true.
If you pay attention to the editing, though, she's working on the engine or something. I mean, she's not looking. I paid attention, and I know this is like a cut around. This is probably the editor's, compliment to the editor. But if you watch the film, she's not looking. I mean, she waves, and then he has that little exchange with Kristy Swanson, and she walks back towards the plane, and by the time he has his mask on, it's clear that Catherine Zeta-Jones is like working on the engine. So they did do some fudging there. It's possible she didn't see him at all.
Okay, we'll give you that one, Cole. All right.
I'm an editor. What do you want?
We'll make some assumptions.
I
can
see that. I can see that. Yeah.
But the funny thing is, when he pulls his mask off, like every time anybody pulls their mask off in these movies, the dark paint around their eyes just vanishes. I love that. It's every time in these movies, like
they do it still.
It's still to this day. I think that's great. I love that. That's not an insult. I think it's fantastic.
And I know we may go a little long. I did not expect it with this film. You guys are wonderful. But we do have to talk about, at least a little bit, Drax, Mr. Treat Williams.
Of course you do, because Treat Williams is amazing.
He's incredible, isn't he?
Yes.
Oh, Treat Williams, folks, if you grew up in the 80s and 90s, you knew Treat Williams. He was the guy who I always felt just didn't quite get there.
He was supposed to on so many different occasions, and this was like around like one of those occasions, like, okay, he's actually is coming back this time, and then it kind of petered out a bit.
He is a staple, and he just, man, does he play this to the hilt? Cole, how'd you feel about Mr. Drax for a 90s villain, for a superhero villain in general?
Well, first of all, that scene with the microscope is hardcore. Yeah, I mean, jeez. I mean, I have bad vision on one of my eyes, so I like cherish my vision, and that's like that scene is hardcore. But to take it back a minute, there's a movie called Flashpoint from 1984.
Yep, I remember.
I love that movie. Treat Williams, Chris Christopherson, unknowingly on the trail of JFK's killers. Totally cheesy.
I want to see this movie.
Oh, if you can find it. I mean, when we get together, we can watch my VHS if it still works. But
yes,
it's fantastic. Another movie that's kind of modern, but has that Old West feel. Lots of shootouts in the desert, things like that. But ever since then, I've even seen Substitute 2 and 3, and all of that crap. Just because he's in a Deep Rising. Fantastic. One of the best of its kind, next to Tremors, in terms of movies of that era. I love Treat Williams. His performance in this is just so smarmy and slimy, and you just want to wring his neck, And I think he's absolutely brilliant in this. That mustache and his eyes, that just sort of just seem to cover you with slime. The type of guy who'll show up at a party surrounded by enemies and say, "Hey, I'm a private citizen." It's really, really a good performance. I'm rambling on too long. I love Treat Williams, and if I had any complaints, it's that his death was a little too quick. I would have liked to see Billy Zane slam evil in the literal sense on him a bit more. But
he doesn't slam a lot of evil.
No, he doesn't slam. He doesn't slam a whole lot. But Treat. I mean, would there be anybody better for this role than Treat? I don't think so, man.
I'm not sure either. Dawn, how about you and Mr. Treat Williams as a villain, especially a 90s villain?
I have adored Treat Williams ever since I saw him in Hair. So I've pretty much loved everything he's been in. This movie, as far as I was concerned, he was the only person who had a clue of how this movie was supposed to be played. And that was to the hilt cheesy. I mean, the lines they gave him, he delivered exactly the amount of cheese it was supposed to have.
Yeah.
The fact that everybody else was trying to play a serious movie was their misfortune.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's how I viewed his performance. Yeah. I thought he was absolutely fantastic.
I loved his villain in this. I wanted to see more of his villain in this. This is like, this guy's awesome.
At a certain point, I wondered if he was doing his own. As he was talking about, I'm thinking about the scene in the museum where he is talking about the skulls and he's announcing what's happening. This is happening right here, right now. And I'm like, he's doing his own commentary, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he did that throughout the movie, and it was wonderful.
He was doing his own commentary. And what's funny too is it's a movie set just before America gets into war. You did have Germany on the right. We have no ounce of Nazis in this film.
True.
No Germans, no Nazis. It blew me away. This takes place in 1938. He's slamming evil. Even our villains are not connected to Nazis. They're connected to pirates.
That's a good point, man.
He's fighting pirates. Led by Shang Tsung. So who did this? Because Mortal Kombat didn't work out, so Shang Tsung decided to lead some pirates. But it's an unusual film, and he's actually kind of an unusual villain. Both villains are. For what are superheroes, what we're kind of used to seeing fighting. Scotty D, what about you and our villain of Treat Williams and basically what are hero fights in general for a film like this?
He's so good. He really, and he's played creepy villains before. Just the year before, he was in a movie that, again, nobody really went to see and nobody liked, but I thought was fantastic, called Mulholland Falls.
Oh,
just
yeah.
The year before, and I thought he was fantastic in that movie. This movie, he's playing the villain again. No, he is playing the villain. And he is, the great thing is that his performance is very campy and it's very over the top. It's very it doesn't quite jump over that ledge into parody.
No.
He is a braggadocious, industrious who just revels in his evil. He's the type of guy who will throw a spear into a mobster's back across a boardroom and then complain about his bursitis. He is absolutely, but he did this so well. And
yes,
I got the feeling he's not doing this though, when he takes his villainous turn, he's not doing this can you believe this piece of crap I'm in? He's doing this as if to relish it, to relish every bit of this part and play it to the hilt. This is his Hackman as Luthor. This is him going for the Raptors, and he totally nails it. This, it sounds strange because there are so many great performances that he had over the decades, and I'm sure he would kind of be a little bit chagrined by this comparison, but it's probably one of my favorite Treat Williams performances in this movie.
Well, you can tell he's having fun, and yeah, you're right. I think Dawn hit it on the head. As well, he knows what he's in. He knows his role,
but he's not thumbing his nose at it.
No,
and there's a big difference between how he would approach that type of role and this type of role.
Right. And we've seen that from Treat Williams before. I'm going to throw it out there because it starred another person who really tried to make it big but never quite did. Mr. Joe Piscopo.
I just watched this movie.
Dead Heat. We're talking.
Oh yeah, man!
I love Dead Heat, but if you look at the way he plays that film too, for the type of film it is, he plays the role exactly the way you want it played. Because, and get off my lawn moment. Nowadays, they try to make films like this, and it's a wink. And we alluded to it tonight already. A wink to the audience, a nudge, a poke fun, a ha-ha. I'm doing this over top. Look at me. I am doing over top. I recognize how it is. And people just don't get it to that level that Treat does with that film. And especially, in this one, to where he gets just to that edge, but never quite goes over it. So it's almost believable that this guy is a batshit crazy rich guy going after skulls. You believe it. He's crazy. Yes, he is cheesy. He is over the top, but he's just enough so you buy into the fact that, yeah, I could see this guy in real life.
Absolutely, man.
And we do get that the one guy, I don't know, I couldn't find the actor name, but the guy who played the one Italian boss, he was an Italian in another film.
Oh, David Proval?
Yeah, in almost the exact same suit. I'm walking in.
David Proval's a character actor, goes way back. He's in a ton of movies.
So, the surrounding cast of The Phantom as well are just a lot of fun. So now we're going to get to it. I know we're going a little late, but we're going to get to it now because I asked my panel for bringing some topics they might want us to talk about tonight. that we may not have touched on already. And we're going to start with Dawn. Dawn, did you have a topic or subject that you'd like us to touch on that we haven't yet?
Just briefly, Devil, the wolf partner of the Phantom. We've talked about talented animal actors in the past, but this one I think did a fantastic job again.
Yeah, it was an interesting sidekick that was really good. You bought into Devil. Cole, how'd you feel about Devil?
I'm me. I'm an animal lover. I'm no PETA guy. I'm not that far gone, but I love animals, man. And anytime you have a well-trained animal on screen, I spent hours with my dog in the last great horror movie, literally hours to get those shots. I mean, it wasn't easy. I have all of the respect in the world for animal trainers. I really do. I mean, at the time I filmed that movie, Hamlet was 11. And even then, it was hard to get him to do what I wanted him to do. And, I'd been living with him forever, over a decade. So I have all the respect in the world. When you can get animals to do that, and with cats, it's even harder. Cats won't do anything unless they're hungry, but even with dogs, that's as all I can say is it's great work on the dog's part. They filmed it fantastically, and I think it was used just enough. I would have hated if the dog had been wounded or the dog was used just enough, or the wolf rather. I'm sorry. I think it was fantastic. That another great part of the movie. I'm glad somebody brought it up.
Yep, just a prime example of the 90s villains who will shoot people, but they still won't shoot the animals.
Yes, this is true. This is very true.
Scotty D, you're a dog lover. How'd you feel about Devil?
Devil is great, and I'm glad he didn't get hurt because I would have been horrified. I'm the type of person who I still can't watch 8 Below. I don't even know. I think all the dogs are fine in that movie, but I mean, if a dog even if it like stubs a paw, I get upset in a movie. So you have to go a long way if you hurt a dog to make me okay. But I thought that the wolf in this movie was great. I like again, going with the theme of the movie, I like how that there's a really brief moment where, yes, the wolf and the horse do seem to be talking to one another.
Yes.
And then they go on. It was like and things are happening so quickly. You're just like, okay, that just happened.
Exactly.
I think I like the thing. Of course, I love the exchange. Your dog is a wolf. I know.
And a wolf,
and he's like he's smiling as if to say your point being, and also, isn't it cool?
and there's one other animal that shows up in here, a tiger. That actually, it was a really cool scene where he gets to show his Dr. Dolittle skills. So I like the wolf, and I love the fact that it was still a time in movies where the bad guys just do not shoot animals. Mm-hmm. The dog comes up on the thugs and holds them in place, and you're just like, they could shot, but no one thinks to shoot the dog at all. They just go after the people, and you gotta love that. Scott, what topic did you have that you wanted to bring to the table today?
Well, we did discuss it a little bit, but I'm going to bring it up a little more.
Sure.
And this movie was, it did not do well. We knew it was going to, as I said, you kind of knew it wasn't going to do well with the marketing and the costume and such. But also, this movie was PG. It would be rated PG-13 today, I think, easily, because I think that whole rating has gone away. PG now just means kids movies,
right?
Animated movies, and G barely exists. G is for toddlers, basically.
Wow, you're so right.
I mean, ratings have no meaning anymore. Everything is PG-13, at least, where it used to be. PG-13 used to be like, okay, this is almost R, but not quite. Also there's a sense of fun, of adventure in this that we've spoken of a bit. My question is, this type of movie didn't swing back too much back then. However, it was written by somebody who had brought a lot of fun to both R-rated movies and PG movies. It was written by Jeffrey Boehm, the last thing he ever wrote. This is the guy who wrote the most, at least the early ones, of the Lethal Weapon movies. He wrote Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. And now, of course, people get all smug and crappy even when you bring up doing another Indiana Jones. My question is about the audiences today. Could you make a movie, not necessarily The Phantom, but with the same tone of The Phantom and have it hit today? Or have our audiences today, and this is not just directed at young people, it's directed at everybody. Now, everything needs an explanation. Everything needs a dark and gritty backstory. Everything needs tragedy. You can't seem to just shrug it off and have a good time at an adventure film anymore without some level of self-awareness. Could something like this that doesn't have does not show its own self-awareness, that just has a sense of fun, that just has a sense of whimsy, could something like this make it today? Or have our audiences become a little too analytical, judgmental, and cynical?
Ooh, a lot of uckles in there.
Mm-hmm.
Cole, what'd you think? We'll go with you first.
Well, it's yes and no. I think Scott's absolutely right about audiences becoming cynical, and I certainly, when I first started podcasting, contributed to that. And I can only apologize so many times. It is true that audiences don't want a certain element of innocence and goofiness. I remember in Roger Ebert's review for the Russell Crowe. Did Ridley Scott do that? The Russell Crowe Robin Hood.
Yeah,
he did.
Scott.
Yeah. Ebert's review said, movie by movie, one by one. I'm paraphrasing. One by one, movie by movie. Innocence is slowly being raped from the cinema. So I think he's absolutely right. I do think that you could do this as an animated film, though. I do think it would be very easy to put a guy in a purple suit. Have obviously Billy Zane isn't they wouldn't hire him, but you could have some celebrity voice the Phantom. You could do this as an animated film, and it would play just fine. Perhaps even better, and perhaps be a huge hit.
You hear that, Leica Studios? Start working on the stop motion animation version of the Phantom.
That's actually not a bad solution.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. I love you, Scott. Thank you.
Same here.
But
Dawn,
that's my answer.
Awesome, Dawn. Do you think our audiences have gotten too illical?
Mainstream movie audiences, probably. But if it were a different format, like a Netflix release, I think it would do well.
Yeah.
Oh.
Wow.
I dislike Netflix.
Well, no,
that's my own grumpiness, though.
Dawn makes a good point, though. People are more forgiving for films that go direct to VOD. Not all. I'm not making a blank saying all audiences, but there seem to be more people forgiving of a film. You could get away with a guy in a flat purple suit like this on a direct-to-Netflix film.
But even more than that, you could make it a serial, a true serial.
Yes.
You could make it a short episode series like your Jessica Jones, your Daredevils, your other short series that are Netflix originals easily. And you would buy into it with the flat suit because it's on a smaller screen, in all honesty. I honestly think how you play the media as well can skew people's how they receive certain films. And yeah, that's a good point. I could definitely see it having a life on Netflix possibly, and getting a following of enough people to watch it to where they might do a season or two at least. So yeah, I could see that. Scott, to answer your own question, what do you think?
Oh, well, honestly, the solution, what I like is that each of you offered a possible solution, which honestly I didn't have. going in and I asked that question. I don't know. That's kind of been something that's been bugging me a lot lately. As I said earlier, when the Phantom came out, I enjoyed it. Now, I almost looked at it as such a light in the darkness, compared to what we have today. I mentioned that half the reason I go see any of these comic book movies anymore is just so I can avoid the spoilers, because I know someone will spoil it before it gets to anything at home. But I think that on the movie screen, I wonder if we are ever going to have a renaissance of this again. I would like to see it. Until then, I think that your solutions are something to think about.
I think they live right now. They're in an acceptable format in the form of animated. Prime example. Let's pull up our last episode, and I don't mean to try to be self-referential, but it kind of goes along with your idea of people forgetting to have fun at a theater nowadays. Let's look at Solo for a minute. Now, Solo, you heard our thoughts on it, and many people that care about it, but by itself, all you got to do is change a few characters in that movie, and I guarantee you it's received differently, because it's a fun movie in general. It's a fun heist film. There's not a lot of real heavy stuff that ever happens in that film. And we have a number of other films that have come out that haven't done well that I thought were great. There's people that have shit on them. Jumanji. I'm putting it out there right now. Jumanji with The Rock. When I first saw the trailer, I was like, oh, that's, I had fun. It was a fun adventure film. It was crazy. There was over-the-top villains. Yeah,
I liked it.
It got a little dark, but overall, there were people on it, it's not like they were shit. I'm like, this is a fun, just a lay back, turn your brain off type of film. And I think a lot of audiences have lost that or don't feel like they don't have to. I mean, there's people throwing a shit fit out there because Venom's not part of the MCU. I'm like, who cares?
Again, people are really too into the mechanics of this stuff these days.
It's
Except the way it is. You know how many shared movie universes we had back then? None.
But the thing is, they're into the mechanics of it without really understanding the mechanics of it.
Yeah.
I'm serious. That's the problem. I ask, I get to a point, and I never throw this over anybody's head because I'm just a peon myself. I'm making movies in my own house, but really, how many of you have been on a movie set? I get to that point where they're like, well, they should have done this, and they should have done this. It's like, do you even know what you're talking about? No. Well, no. And then they choke. Well, you're just conceited. No, I'm not. All I'm saying is that if I get one bad cheeseburger, I'm not going to spend the rest of my life bad-mouthing the restaurant. It's not worth it. Like,
nice. Yep.
Grow up. Grow the fuck up. I'm sorry.
No. And it's like what we discussed in the beginning, which, before this episode started, I mentioned to Dawn, and I know I'll get flack for it. I don't care. I really enjoy The Last Showman. I loved that musical.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it yet.
It actually was probably on my top of one of my all-time favorite films of 2017. I did not expect to enjoy it at all. I didn't know it was going to be a musical at first. Once I found out it was a musical with Hugh Jackman, I'm like, okay. Loved it. I got the soundtrack on vinyl. I listened to it on loop for quite some time, the soundtrack and everything. People shit on that movie left and right. And I'm looking at it going, why are really people? Well, it's because P.T. Barnum and this, and I'm like, it never claimed to be a biopic. It's inspired.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It has nothing to do with the reality, but it was wonderful. I loved the movie.
If you look at it, even by musical standards, it is a light film. No one dies. There's a happy ending. I honestly have to say, Scott, I agree with you. I think that a good part, not everybody, but there's a good chunk of the mainstream movie audience that has grown so cynical that if you get a feel-good, actual happy film on screen, fictional or otherwise, that a good chunk of people are going to shit on it because it is a happy, fun, escape film. And people either don't seem to know how to process that or aren't allowing themselves because they think in some way it's going to demean them.
Yes.
It's going to reflect poorly on them.
Well said, sir.
Whereas I am sitting here going, I love Megaforce. And people go, what? I'm like, Barry Bostwick, gold lame jumpsuit, flying motorcycle. Okay? I fully admit I enjoy that film. I enjoy Hudson Hawk.
Yes!
Hudson Hawk.
Oh,
God,
man,
that
one
movie's
of Bruce
so good.
Willis's best.
I enjoy Hudson Hawk. And people out there, even Bruce Willis won't talk about, first rule of Bruce Willis is don't talk about Hudson Hawk.
Yeah, he now pretends like it was a horrible thing. Like, no, your attitude today sucks.
Yeah.
Back then you were fine.
So to answer your question, yes, Scott, I think Dawn's right. It would live better on Netflix. I think on the big screen, I don't think this would be a success. I think it would be not well received. And considering this is from it'd be a different writer now, but considering the original Phantom from '96 was written by the same guy who gave us Briscoe County Jr.
Yeah.
Who gave us The Lost Boys, Inner Space, Dead Zone. The film is written actually very well.
That guy passed away way too young. He was a cracking good writer.
he was definitely that. So, I think we're a little too cynical for the Phantom today. And Cole, how about your question for the evening?
Well, my question, it ties into, the purple suit, but also, the era that the movie is portraying. How do you think this flick would play in black and white?
Ooh. Scott, what do you think?
Well, I have never actually, it's regarded as a classic, but I've never actually seen the serial from the 40s. But I imagine that the suit is a lot more easy to digest there than it would be, right out there, big as life today. That's actually a good question. I was watching the Blue last night because, like most spoiler room episodes, I was reminded of it when I saw a post from Mark on Facebook among the group saying, like, I'm really excited to do the show this week. I went, this week? Shit! And I went and grabbed my Blu-ray out of a cardboard box somewhere because I still have my apartment still full of cardboard boxes. I still haven't unloaded them. But I was watching this and I was remembering, God, this thing is so beautifully photographed. It just looks absolutely sumptuous on the widescreen, But, in black and white, I'll bet you this would actually play pretty well. If you could, kind of drain the color of it, rather than look, gritty or whatever, I think what it would look like is it would look like one of those classic serials or like a classic Tarzan movie or something like that.
Yeah.
I bet you it would look really good.
Don, what would you think of the Phantom Chrome Edition?
I agree with Scott because of the way it's filmed. It has that, even in color, it has that. I don't know how they filmed it. I'm not that technical, but even in color, it has that visual texture of a classic 30s film. So black and white would probably put you right there.
Yeah.
Although I do like all the vivid colors. It's just
you like Billy Zahn in the purple suit. Let's face it.
Hey, he fills it out well.
He does fill it out well.
No shame.
Abs. No shame. Whatever the term is, beefcake, cheesecake, whatever. Or beefcake, cheesecake. But there you go. That wouldn't taste very good, but it could be Billy Zahn.
Depends on if you're talking about Billy Zane or no, why am I drawing a blank on his name? Captain Jack.
Captain Jack Harkness, yes.
Yeah.
John Barrowman.
He's my cheesecake.
Yes, he's that's a man crush. Never mind. Anyway,
we're getting into a whole weird area here. I'm not judging. I think it's fantastic for the month, but I'm just thinking like, well, and I thought I got off top.
Yeah, sorry. She mentioned John Barrowman, and we won't go there. Anyway, thank you, three of you. I couldn't believe all three of you actually enjoyed this film. I will say you've given me perspective on the Phantom. Watching it this time around, being the older person I am versus the 20s person I was when I watched it, being the huge Batman fan I was. I have a better appreciation for it. I'm not sure I enjoy it quite as much as everybody here, but I do enjoy a lot more moments than I thought I would in it. And in the end, yeah, it definitely comes from a time when studios were really scrambling to try to figure out this comic book thing that they didn't think was marketable, and suddenly someone showed it could be, and now they're all trying to get in on it. So this was kind of them learning for later films that we would get today. So there you have it, folks. Hope you've enjoyed our discussion. Hey, seek it out even if you can. I think it's on Amazon Prime or other venues out there. And now this is the point of the show where we get these fine folks to help tell you where you can find them when they're not here. So go ahead, Cole.
Hey, man, I've got a movie on Amazon Prime. It's free if you have Prime. It's called The Last Great Horror Movie. I'm proud of it. And if you're on Facebook, it's Shadows and Lovers Productions. Again, Shadows and Lovers Productions. We make little micro-budget horror movies with pennies, but they're filled with emotion. So if that's your thing, feel free to check us out.
Yeah, he only has people in his cast named Penny. So that's why he makes films with pennies, because there's like, it's a really tough cast list to get because Penny's not a popular name anymore. So
but when he gets them, they're pennies from heaven.
They are. And Dawn, where can they find stuff for you?
Well, occasionally you can find me in theaudience.net. But
yes.
If you check that out, you're going to find out that I have really questionable taste in movies.
I wouldn't say so. I'd say you have excellent taste in
Word.
So,
Word.
Definitely check all that great stuff out. She writes words that you can read, unlike myself. And next to Dawn, Scotty D, where can they find some of your stuff still lingering out there on the interwebs?
It is still lingering because I haven't done anything with it in a while, but who knows? Maybe that might be changing soon. That might be something that I've been thinking about recently, kind of revamping. But till then, yay! I know. I'm hoping.
Please.
I'm fingers crossed.
I'm a big fan, man.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And what you can find out there still is at movieocrity.com. You can find out a lot of my writings. And also, you can catch my old web series, Movieocrity. YouTube has it, but the only place to see all the episodes is at vimeo.com/channels/movieocrity.
And by that, he means so you can see the boobies. So
you can see the boobies because apparently, YouTube did not let. YouTube was okay with the boobies, even with the things I had flagged for 18 and up. But the second I showed two women actually kissing one another, they made sure to ban that episode. So
are you fucking serious?
There you go.
I swear to God. So I mean, if you want to watch a pretty humorous and slightly informative web series about exploitation films and strike against the patriarchy at the same time, check me out on Vimeo.
There you go. And all great stuff, folks. Thank you so much for listening, folks. I know we went a little long. I did not expect the Phantom episode to go the way it did. Thank you to my panel tonight. I love doing these and getting these unexpected discussions about a film that I initially didn't care for, I'll fully admit, but now I have more appreciation. I may actually even watch it again sometime. And that's not a lie. It's the simple truth, because I found it a lot more fascinating this time around. But I'm older, not much wiser, but I am older. And just to let you know, it was bugging me what film I was trying to figure out that I had seen the character actor David Proval in. It was UHF, where he
Yeah.
Wow.
And that was before the Phantom, but he had almost the exact same suit on in the Phantom that he did in UHF. I swear, it felt like the same. I'm like, that's where I remember him from. So, side note, thank you so much for listening to us babble, folks. Now, let's go slam evil, everyone. Say slam evil in.
Slam
evil, everyone.
I'm not going to say that.
Hey, all my friends out there looking for more spoiler room goodness? Then why don't you check out our brand new Patreon page, patreon.com/specialmarkproductions, where you can get access to exclusive spoiler room episodes and a whole lot more. You can also find us on Facebook groups at SMPRD and on to Twitter at SpecialMarkPro. Let your voice be heard and let us know what you would like to see in the spoiler room, as well as just how we're doing in general. We appreciate your support, and remember, in the spoiler room, the conversation is fresh, but we do spoil the movies.